Look how the stars turn on. Look how the stars turn on. When I hold you close. When I hold you close. When I hold you close. The stars turn on.
Hello and welcome to Season 4, Episode 25 of the Press Box in association with the unit. So after a forgettable performance in Galway a week earlier, there was at least much more to be happy about on Friday as Dundalk went to the Brandywell and claimed what could prove to be a valuable point in the battle to avoid the drop. Unfortunately for us, Drogheda United's 1-0 draw away to Shamrock Rovers on Sunday wiped a bit of the gloss off that result in Derry, but I suppose their display is something to build on. We're going to be looking back on that game in this week's show, and we're also what lies ahead in the remaining series of matches, starting with the visit of Stephen Kenny's Pats to Oriel Park on August 23rd. As I said there, good result. I suppose the Drogheda result did potentially wipe a bit of the gloss, as I said there, but what was your general takings of the performance in Derry?
Yeah, look, I think you have to take it as a bit of a positive. Was it perfect? No, but I mean, when you factor in not just us, but I think fans in general, post goal, where we're saying it lacked a bit of heart, it lacked a bit of grit, lacked a bit of character. And to be fair, I think Friday had all those things. Probably a bit of a game of two halves in that, with a bit more of a clinical edge, you could maybe potentially certainly double the lead at half time, maybe three if you count, like, I suppose Jamie Gullen had a chance saved by Marr. Robbie Mahon's one was the one, though, that you said, that goes in, it's maybe a different game. And John Daly would have referenced that afterwards, where he said, maybe the Brandywell becomes a bit toxic. But at 1-0, they always had something to maybe come back at. They made a couple of good changes at the break, but bringing on Davenport and Mullen. And they actually combined for their equaliser, obviously. So, yeah, they were knocking at the door, but very disappointed with Derry. No qualms in saying it. I know that wasn't why it was there, but for a side who are going for the title, it just seems, and not just this season, but whenever they get sort of within striking distance of, let's lay down a marker here, lads, they sort of bottle it. And I thought they did a little the other night, but to be fair, we made it difficult for them as well. Yeah, like I say, it wasn't necessarily perfect from start to finish, but I think if we show that little bit of grit and determination that we had on Friday, and we can go into some of the changes there was, etc. But it's potentially, for me anyway, something to build on, heading into the final series of games, because you were looking at it the previous week against Galway, and look, one swallow doesn't make a summer and all that, so they have to now back that up. But there was genuine concern about what we saw against Galway, particularly given it was at home and given how kind of easily, for me, that we rolled over. It's not perfect still. That, look, probably never will be. But again, it just shows, and probably maybe the results in general in the league across the weekend shows, I don't think there's much between any team. I don't think there's like an outstanding team. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to compare the League of Ireland to the Premier League, but if you take the Premier League as an example, just as getting back underway this weekend, there's always a team, and probably in recent years, a Man City, a Liverpool, an Arsenal, whatever, that on their day can wipe you, apart, or they rip you apart, whatever. And we don't have that. Like, Shelbourne are worthy league leaders, and yet I think it's a one game they've won by more than a goal or something like that. It's not a big number anyway. And look, they're functional, and all the rest, but it's, yeah, there's very little between any team. And I think even again, I would have watched a bit of the other matches at the weekend. You think, like, look at Drogheda coming from behind against Rovers, and if anyone was going to win it for me, it was going to be Drogheda. So yeah, look, it has to be a building block now. I think we've a fortnight to maybe, for ahead of that Pats game, to maybe integrate players a bit more. I know there is a team bonding thing happening, and I think it has to be sort of a building block heading into those final 9 games.
I think as much as the cup being a sad thing that we're out, because in theory it's an opportunity for silverware in Europe, but I do think if they are doing a team bonding thing with the amount of kind of new faces in, I think that is actually going to be a massive thing for the club, for the building the camaraderie, everything. But in the game, it's funny because you referenced the Galway game, and I think we were all, even in our kind of friends group and all, we were talking about different bets and stuff like that. If things went on, we were like having a laugh about how some of them odds and stuff, because we were so far off it. And to be fair to John Daly, where is it here? He did make 3 changes with Can, Keogh, and Mahan coming in for Anamasahun, Hakiki, and O'Kane. So he obviously addressed a few things. I think the big thing I was looking at, to be honest with you, when I was waiting for the team sheet to come out, was to see would he go to goalkeeper again, and he did. So it was ballsy. And to give the young fella credit, who was it? Mark Mullen. He made a great save anyway. It was a one-on-one that essentially that goes in where it's done. So again, confidence, and he made a few saves. Kind of came out, was strong. So that can only build confidence. That was a big decision, number 1. And also it's funny, Keogh, even though he's such a young man, I really like him when he comes in. I think he is still learning on the job, but I don't think there's anybody better than him there in at left back. And I think it's a really good defender to put in there. I think Can did okay. Don't think he was outstanding, and I don't think he did anything wrong in that sense either. And the likes of Mahan, I think at the start of the season, everybody wanted Mahan in because he can glide, he can really kind of run at defenders from the middle of the park, and that's a huge asset. It's a huge asset. So I know he's very injury prone, and he had a tough start for his life at Dundalk, but I actually feel that's one of the things we were missing. So I think his choices of team was impressive from my point of view. I thought he did address a few things, and the keeper kind of staying in was again a ballsy decision, which did go well for him. I think we did have chances. I think you're dead right to say it was a game of 2 halves. Mahan's chance was probably one that I definitely would have liked to see put away, and we showed a lot of grit. And then I suppose to flip it, the second half, I think they made a few changes, and it was just backs against the wall for 45 minutes essentially. We did get very lucky, as I said. Goddard made a save, and then I don't know whoever the second chance was when he tried to lob the keeper. I just thought that was madness. Like
both or Danny Mullen, yeah.
I wasn't like, if I'm Rory Higgins, I'm ripping his head off. Like, again, as you say, we're going for a league title. We need lads that are finishing, and I'd be absolutely ripping his head off. So, but again, back to the wall. I think a gritty performance with nothing special. I'm not going to big it up here. I thought there was grit in it, but like, I still think that performance, to be honest with you, shows you like even the levels. Like I didn't think you think there's not that much between a lot of these teams. I thought they didn't get going, but I thought there was a big difference in class and stuff. And I thought, especially the second half when they came out, they were able to kind of difference of class has been harsh and Dundalk, but I thought that they were a higher level than Dundalk, and I think we probably are where we deserve to be, if we're being honest. But I think a gritty performance with Pats coming next in the league, it's a shame about Drogheda getting that point, but because it is positive, and it is something that, like, if we did actually lose that game and Drogheda got that point, there's more pressure. So they've built the confidence. They understood we can go away to potential league winners and grind out a result. So in theory, when Kenny brings Pats here, they're not exactly in worldies type of form in the league anyway. So again, who knows? But I think Daly did a good job on Friday, and I suppose we can only move forward from that.
Yeah, I think you're underselling it a little bit there because look, Derry will have dominate possession against most teams in the league. They've the best. I referenced to last week, the best home record in the division by a distance. Um, like
There's
for
probably an
me,
element of that, sorry, of me saying, I'm not used to us being in fucking ninth place and it is a
no,
backs
but
against the wall. We're used to kind of going up there and really putting it on teams. So it is weird to see these sort of things that we're sitting back and hoping kind of thing. So I suppose that's maybe part of the insight that it is still a weird thing for me. I look at it and think, Jesus, this is like I'm used to us free flowing football and going at teams and stuff like that. So I suppose there's an
you're living
element of
it.
that as well.
What year are you living in? Um, no, but like I think to be fair to Daly, he got it fairly spot on, and it was almost tactically brilliant from the perspective of right. He changed things up. You mentioned Q there. I think we referenced it last week. A left foot or left back just gives you better balance. In general, which we had Pike. To be fair, he came under a bit of criticism. Now, I wasn't at the Bows game where probably it was his maybe ropiest performance, but looked a lot more solid at right back. Can come in beside Boyle. To be fair to them, Patrick Hoban was close to anonymous.
Mm.
They both made big blocks at times, but I think where he sort of got it right, and he referenced it afterwards, where he said, like, our game plan was to, he knew that Derry were going to have a lot of the ball, but he said we can dictate who has the ball. So, the likes of maybe Mark Conley playing diagonal balls forward, we'll accept that, but we don't want Will Patching dictating things. And how he set up, so he kind of had it was more or less a 4-3-3. Now, obviously, your wingers are doing a bit of a defensive shift as well, but he had Dervin on the right of the tree, and that was more or less to keep tabs on Duffy. Um, Benson, I thought, was, between Benson and Mountney, doing our best to keep Patching sort of quiet, and they were kind of happy then for the likes of, maybe the Adam O'Reilly in the first half or whatever to have a bit more time on it. I think Benson going off was a blow in that regard. Robbie probably didn't touch the ball a lot the other night. Even his biggest contribution was the step over um, for the man chance in terms of like in an attacking sense. But what he was doing was the sort of silent thing of keeping, some of their danger men sort of limited. And we did that in the first half where, I think that a bit of a half chance from a corner early on, and maybe one at the back stick by Conley that he put wide from a free kick. But outside of that, like, it genuinely could have been like, okay, Mar made a decent stop, I'll say, from Gullen, kind of similar to the one that Goddard made from Mullen the second half. But I think they're ones you're sort of expected to make. But what I would say is I think if Gullen is maybe a little bit more confident, maybe he does a better job there. And similarly when Mahan, like that was Mahan's first start since April. It's only his fourth start in the league for us in total. He has had his injury problems. Look, he needs to hit the target with the one he puts over just before the break, but you take them and there's probably no way back into it from Derry. Yeah, they threw a lot of us in the second half, but well, Goddard made one kind of like, I know. Look, we're trying to give this lad praise, and I'm not trying to be on his back, but it's a sort of save you expect your keeper to make. He's coming out, you make yourself big, and
Yeah,
I
but they
don't
can
think you.
easily go in, and that's
Yeah, but I don't think it's one you slate him for if he doesn't make it. But like at the end of the day, if you close the angle, and Maher did the same in the first half with Gull, if you close the angle, you make it difficult for him to score. And he did well in that regard. I think Derry will look back in this game and say, they'll be kicking themselves that they didn't, like, rightly or wrongly. And look, everyone was sort of questioning this guy. John Daly had to defend him, and he didn't really have anything to fit, particularly first half. Like, you're thinking he had to be a bit nervous. Like, he's a human being at the end of the day. I'm sure he's heard some of the stuff mentioned about him and written about him and all that. And I probably could have done goals in the first half. Like, he'd nothing to do. And listen, that's a credit to both Dundalk for the way they defended. I thought, like, I know John Mountney got the goal with the header from Horgan's corner. But I thought he was immense in his own box. The amount of balls he had to clear and stuff like that. But Derry didn't test him whatsoever. And like, I'd have been, if like, because they do have players like Will Patching, for example, who can pull the trigger from range. McMullen, um, even Adam O'Reilly is a bit of a strike in him, who was on in the first half, and none of them. I'd have been testing this lad, see what he's made of, because he did look a bag of nerves against Galway second half, particularly after the goal, and that'll be Derry's big regret. I feel, but that said, we showed that bit of grit and character. Like, like, there was some brilliant blocks in the second half. Dervin made a really good one. Boyle made a particularly good one from Hoban at one point. Can, I think, in the follow up as well. And like, it was, bar the 1-on-1 chance and maybe the one on the roof of the net, which, look, was a poor finish. Like, if you're talking about big chances in the game, we had as many, because we had the Gullen one and the Mullen one, that both keepers saved, very, very similar. And I think Mahon's is probably easier than the one Mullen put on the roof of the net. So it really could have went either way. I think it would have been heartbreaking, and we would have struggled to come back for it had we shipped a goal, having held on for so long.
Yeah.
But I mean, positives are, look, we frequently lament our away form. That's our first time taking back-to-back points on the road this season, because I know we lost the Galway in between, but 2 weeks prior to that, we'd taken a point away to Bowes. So look, it needs to sort of grow from here. But is Can and Boyle our new partnership? Is that back four our new back four? Look, you probably need a little bit more going forward. I like what I've seen from Mahon. I think he gives you a certain outball, and I don't think anyone will like defending against pace. He has been very unlucky with injuries. But what we do have is, so this week we're playing in, we have a friendly on Thursday against Longford Town in the EUL, where I think the idea of that is to get maybe some of the players who need minutes and whatever, a bit of game time. And that probably, like, bear in mind, a lot of the new arrivals, so fair enough, Dervin, Hakiki, etc., were already in the league, but for a lot of these guys, they're still in pre-season mode. So like, when we're criticizing, say, a Pike or a, we haven't seen really Josh O'Connor yet or any, but they're still in pre-season, and it does take maybe 5-6 matches to get up to speed. So that'll help them, I think, go away, bond as a group. There's a full series of matches left. Look, we still, every point counts. And in a weird way, like, if you flip it, I mean, Derry would be kicking themselves for not winning on account of, obviously they couldn't have predicted at the time, but obviously Sligo go and beat Shelburne the next night.
Yeah.
And as much as Damien Duff will be fuming at that result, they're still top. They still have a game in hand on Derry, and it's one game closer to the end in terms of the finish line. And we can talk about Drogheda in more detail and what they done, because there's no doubt their point away to Rovers on Sunday took a little bit the glass off our result, maybe, because you're looking at it, Rovers take the lead after 6 minutes, and after the Shells dropping points, Derry dropping points, you're thinking, this is your opportunity, lads. And it looked like early goal, you're going to kick on. And to be fair, Drogheda had to maybe withstand a bit of an onslaught at times in the first half, but then they finished stronger, and they just did the opposite of us, in that they had their spell in the second half, we had ours in the first. But again, it was something that shows character from them. But I mean, we can't control what they do either, but we need to make this, like, we were difficult to play against at least, and look, we still need goals. We still need more firepower. Like, if you take a plus, because even that Chris Clark texted me on Friday night. I think he was on the town end at the time, and asked when's the last time we scored a headed goal from a corner, and it's over a year ago. It was Pat Hoban against Drogheda, 3-1 win last September. Or sorry, just under a year ago. And as a small building block to even be doing that, it's something we haven't done all year. So, like, again, as I said earlier, one swallow doesn't make a summer and all that. Like, you need to build on it. But I do think heading into this mini break, because, like, genuinely, and I was speaking to people during the week, and I can probably admit this myself, I was going up the road on Friday thinking this could be bleak, like, because if it's anything like Galway, this could have been 3-4-0 or something. And like that, Derry can be ruthless when they do get on top of you, because the league could come down to goal difference for all we know. And this is a team who has lost a league on goal difference, of course, in the past. So they never really got going in the end, but like we at least showed a little bit of character. And look, we need to take that now. Our next 2 games are at home. I think obviously Pats are in European action this week. I'd love them to still be in European action when we play them, but like, Stephen Kenny signed well, but it probably won't take a lot for the fans to get up for a Pats game against Stephen Kenny, his first return to Oriel Park. John Daly against his old club again. We've already beaten them under Kenny. Granted, there's been a few personnel changes since then, but look, it doesn't guarantee us anything. But the fact we do have this time to maybe work on things in training, which, get another couple of weeks. Like you must remember, we 3 players went off injured the other night too: Keogh, Benson, and Gullen. Maybe if they're playing this Friday, I don't know the extent of any of those injuries. But if you're playing this Friday, maybe 1, 2, or 3 miss it. But the extra week, maybe gives you a chance to get them back. And look, it's a chance again. John Daly now has to work with them on it, do something fun. I think even I was up at the community day on Sunday, the open training session, and there was a bit of a buzz about the place despite everything this season. So, like I say, I just hope it's not a false dawn, but there's little positives you can definitely take from it, I feel.
Right. Well, we did actually just have 2 comments this week from listeners, as always, brought to you by Malone Financial Services. So Trevor Russell said, much better performance. It could be a massive point at the end of the season. Our goal should be to chase down Bows now. The next 4 games are Shells, Rovers, Shells, and Derry. Tough to see them getting much from that. Definitely need to take positivity from the Derry game and build on it. And Simon Canning said, good gutsy battling display. Could have won it in the first half. Still worrying that our goals are not coming from our strikers. Our keeper did well. Drogheda's Douglas James Taylor is looking the best striker in the league at the minute, and that has to be a major concern as we look over our shoulders. I think both of them are fair, and I think, ironically, I think we're kind of looking both sides, actually, because to be honest with you, I do have a bit of a fear in Drogheda, in the sense of I think they are as a gritty team. Now, there's only so much grit will get you. They'll need to win games, to be honest. I think to really push on, and I don't know how much that'll come, but I can see them getting a few draws and different bits and bobs, and I think your man, Taylor, seems to be the real deal. I think he's 3-3 or something for them. Like, so that's a sort of
4 and 6. Yeah,
form, like it's proper, strikers form that you want. And then on the other side, Bows are an absolute basket case. So like, honest to God, like I see them going 2-0 up the other day and thought, right, fuck, they've kind of pulled it together. When they lost 3, like that's gut wrenching stuff. That's like you lose the dressing room sort of stuff. Like I don't know. No one O'Donnell's in there. I'd say they were probably locked in Daily Man till about 12 o'clock after that one. But like
that poor man has 1 win from 21 league matches this season for both clubs.
Yeah, like
that's a lot of. He doesn't have hair to pull out anymore, but that's a lot of hair. Now I don't think we can blame it all on him now, to be fair. But what I will say is, maybe a Rovers game is exactly what they need, or even a Shells game, because that's a derby, in a strange way. But like,
They
it's a
do have quality.
horrendous.
That's the only thing I will say. Like
Yeah, but it's a horrendous run of form, and you do look
yeah,
at those next four and say, under current form, how many points see you back? And now, listen,
yeah,
the good thing about the good thing from their perspective is they've more points than us and they've more points than Drogheda, so they do have that little bit of a cushion, and we're not exactly on, a Sligo Rovers run of form where you're putting back-to-back wins together or something. So
yeah.
we can only dream of that right now. If you could manage to do it somehow, then you could say it's a realistic thing. But look, long may their sort of demise continue, because they're to come to Oriel at the end of September as well. And I would say on paper, it's the easiest of our home matches remaining.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean we'll win it or anything, but on paper, just by their league position and form and the fact we've already beaten them at Oriel this season fairly comfortably, it it definitely is. But
Yeah, they're
like you're right.
last in the form guide, by the way, Bows in the last 5. Now we're second to them, so
And
it's
I
not
think it's a
great. Like,
one home win this season, like for a place
it?
that's
So yeah,
supposedly a fortress. But like a lot of the team, and this is the weird thing about it, like so we scored in Brandywell the other day. It's our 11th away goal this season, which you'd say is fairly crap. It's the same amount of away goals as Derry have.
yeah,
Team going for the title. I think prior to the weekend, Drogheda had scored the same number of goals in the league as Shelbourne, top and bottom.
yeah,
Now, obviously, Chelsea have a far better defensive record, but like, and I referenced this before, we probably unwittingly give Drogheda a bit of a formula, because they've gone with Douglas James Taylor and Piero, and they will, as they showed in Tala the other day, cause problems. Andrew Wogan had a very, very shaky game against us in the league match, and I think there was one of the Horgan goals he definitely could have saved. And it brought Luke Dennison in, and it's made a difference. So they're on a decent mini run at the moment in terms of, is it 3 undefeated or something for them in the league anyway. So they're punting it up to us a little bit, and like, I know you didn't give them great hope of taking anything from Tala the other day, but they're just that sort of team that I don't think if you were doing an accumulator every week you'll ever back them, but they will pull off results. And like what's interesting is, and I reference it to John Daly on Friday night, and whether this happens or not remains to be seen, but the English League's kicked off on Friday, so you have to. I don't think we can dream of signing Premier League quality players, but like obviously the Premier League this weekend is the bigger one in terms of what we'll focus on as a TV viewing audience. But there's a lot of free agents still out there. We obviously saw this week with Shell signed the likes of Aidan O'Brien. Obviously, Shawnee Maguire's came back to league. Rover signed Mark McNulty. There's probably been a few more that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but he did say there is a free slot in the squad, because that sort of McGuckin position was never filled. And look, there'd undoubtedly be players out there, maybe who are hanging out for a club. But if that club doesn't emerge, does it suit them to maybe, even if it's a short-term deal to the end of the season, take a short-term contract? Now, as John admitted himself, the downside of that is that, like, you're coming in and you're in that sort of pre-season mode, and maybe for 15, 20 minutes is all you're ready to give for maybe the foreseeable. But if we can get someone in, and bear in mind, as I say, we do have a friendly this week, maybe that's a chance to say to a free agent, look, come in, play a game, see what you think of it. No obligations, but at the very least it gives you a bit of match fitness. That game is in Dublin, it is behind closed doors, so I'm not advising anyone to go to it, but you could do it quite cleverly and see, does it suit both parties. And it could be a game changer, because we definitely are lacking goals in the top end of the team. As I think, as Simon referenced there, you'd love your strikers to get more, but it's just not happening at the moment. So I think maybe now is that time where, and I'm not saying I'm aware of anything, I genuinely haven't looked into it, but if you can get someone in maybe this week playing that friendly, bond a bit with the team, and okay, it might take them a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, to maybe get up to the point of, ready to start. But if someone can be an impact player in the way that James Taylor has for Drogheda, I mean, it definitely could be the difference between staying up and going down. So I think that's definitely worth exploring. And like, I'm not saying these sort of players are like maybe on our radar, because look, they might have bigger ambitions, but the likes of Connor Wickham, for example, who's played for England at under 21 level, only 31 years of age still, is without a club. Federico Makeda, who Man United fans will remember, is without a club. And I'm not saying they're the type of players we should be looking at, because they might be just out of the spectrum of what we can do. But you just need to identify the right one maybe to get in and say, look, if you're not getting a deal elsewhere, come here. We'll give you, 9-10 matches, whatever's left, and at least if you score a few goals here, maybe you're in a bit better position to get a club in January. So easier said than done, of course, and it has to be the right person. But equally, what have we got to lose? Because like even the other night, and obviously Josh O'Connor wasn't on the bench, and neither was Bobby Faulkner, and that I did ask about that, and they weren't injury related. That was sort of, well, he said tactical, that he wanted more wide players on the bench, but probably doesn't bode well when you're bringing a striker in on loan and he's not even making your bench. Now, maybe he'll get up to speed. It's too early to judge Josh O'Connor, don't get me wrong, but we could definitely, if there's a slot in the squad, I know money's tight or whatever, but could be worth finding it. Definitely could be worth finding it.
Right, but before we discuss the return of Stephen Kenny to Oriel Park after the break, let's hear from our sponsors, The Unit.
Today's episode is powered by The Unit, experts in building innovative products for the betting, iGaming, and sports industries. They're the brains behind building innovative products tailored for those who love the game as much as we do. From software that powers up the betting world to platforms that enhance how we engage with our favourite sports, The Unit is leading the charge. The Unit, a winning team that reminds me of the Kenny era Dundalk in their consistency and results. Proud sponsors of the Press Box podcast. Learn more at theunit.dev.
Right. Well, of course, we do have no game now this week due to our FAI Cup exit, but I suppose that can be a positive ahead of the Pats game because, as you said, we've a friendly that we can try out things. We can try, as you said, even there, potential new players, trialists in that element, and also get other lads up to speed, but also a team bonding thing, which I think is brilliant. But also with that, it kind of gets John Daly time with guys on the pitch, and I think even I'd say Stephen Kenny would admit it, bar potentially Europe, like he hasn't hit the ground running. So like even I know you said there's not much between a lot of these teams in the league, and maybe you're right, but what I would say is about like Pat's even coming here, like it's unlikely because they've got the odd win here and there, but like they're not a million miles off either, and I wouldn't be like they've signed well. They, I will say that they're kind of putting their money where their mouth is, but again, results don't really show that. So, like, if I'm John Daly, and if anybody can set up a team to beat them players, in theory, it's the man that was managing them. So, again, an opportunity now when Pats do come to town.
Yeah, like to haven't been. Let's be honest, the best result, well, they did beat Rovers in the league, but the best result has been in Europe for them. They've particularly stank it out on the road in terms of they've only won once away from home all season. That was at Galway the opening night of the season. They've only scored 9 goals away from home, which is the lowest in the league. And even recent results, like, I think fair to say they robbed Sligo. Well, they didn't rob, but a really bad refereeing decision robbed Sligo. That was, only, I think it was a Stephen's second win or maybe third win in charge, like in terms of the league. And even last weekend, for me anyway, really bad decision on the goal that was disallowed for Galway with supposed foul on an Ang. I don't know what the lad's meant to do there. He stand his ground and the ball comes to him. So they've got a bit of rub of the green that maybe has given them, let's say, 3 extra points over the last sort of couple of weeks. But like I said, they've a big game coming up in Europe, and I hope to go through for the league's perspective. And maybe they're a bit sidetracked. The potential for that game to maybe move around then could be potentially the Sunday, if depending on their progression or not. But it would be a good sort of distraction and look as a between John Daly up against his old club, it is Stephen's first time back in Oriel since he left us in terms of in a management perspective. So I don't think the fans will have any trouble getting up for it. There has been a little bit of needle between the two clubs, like I would say friendly-ish, but around the Stephen O'Donnell thing, that's maybe past. But again, it could be the sort of perfect game for us in terms of, look, I don't think you can pick anyone right now you'd say you'd love to play given our position, but they're not going great guns. And yeah, as I say, if they're distracted by Europe, I know they made a lot of changes for the Galway game. Now, granted, still got a point, but if they come and make a lot against us, maybe we can take advantage of that. Now, what I would say is they've signed pretty well. I'm sure John Daly looks at times and say, where was those resources when I was there? But they are a side who's sort of flattered to deceive this season. And look, I don't want to sound like I'm talking them down, but we have to believe we can go out and beat them. And we've already done it this season, so why not again? And like I say, John Daly should know their flaws and weaknesses better than most. When you factor in he's Graham Kelly with him as well. So look, it's still a bit away, and things like we're trying to predict what will happen between now and then. They're obviously out of the cup as well, but that European tie looms large, and if they can go through, there'll be an action. I think it's probably going to be likely Istanbul in the next round, so Istanbul Başakşehir or something like that. So yeah, look, I wouldn't be overawed by them in any way. But we need to first and foremost, regardless who we're playing, get back to Oriel Park being a tough place to come again, because it wasn't that for the Galway game. Certainly not.
And I suppose just a few positives in regarding the club as well. I thought the open training session day on Sunday, bringing fans together, people getting to watch, I think that's brilliant. I think offering the likes of Keogh and Horgan the new deals, I think that shows, progression, a future in that sense. I have to say that was impressive. I was shocked by that, actually, to be honest. So to be honest with you, I'm quite happy with that. Probably more so Keogh, because I think Horgan, although Horgan's probably been our best player in that sense, but like again, he's probably in the older category in that sense. But I think the likes of kind of tying Keogh down, and also I look at the Keogh thing in the sense of us ever shipping him on, and let's actually make a few pound. Like it was funny, actually, absolutely off point, but I was watching Sky Sports News today, and Aberdeen signed some lad from Finland or some dirt club like Helsinki whatever. It was like £800,000 sterling for like
I
some
apologize to all Helsinki fans.
yeah, that is very harsh on them. But like, you know what I mean? The grand scheme of football in terms, £800,000, and was it Gavin Malloy they signed from Shells for 75,000? And I get there's certain contracts and all in place and release clauses and stuff, and that's why it was that. But I mean, and who has started very well for Aberdeen, by the way, as well. And you just think, Jesus, like, and that sort of money from Helsinki is what I think when we think, oh, maybe if Kyo kicks on and there is no release clauses, that maybe actually somebody does come in and actually offer clubs in the League of Ireland decent money. But it's a bit off topic, but that's why I was actually happy to see that Kyo did potentially sign a new 2-year deal that actually does tie him down with hopefully no release clause, that if he does kick on, that hopefully we can actually make money from our academy as well.
Yeah, well, he's earned it, to be fair. I remember chatting to Stephen O'Donnell about him at the start of the season when he got his initial deal, and he wasn't someone on the radar in terms of when you talk about the underage, that potential first team player or whatever, but he came in for a friendly, I think it was against Shelburne, and was really, really good, and um kind of stayed around the first team at that stage for the preseason training, and his elevation in that regard has been enormous. Like, because this isn't like a lad who, like, we go through the underage stuff every week, and okay, maybe you don't expect a left back to be getting the mention every week, but like if a certain player scoring every week and suddenly steps up, you're not overly surprised. But yeah, I think he did kind of make rapid sort of gains, and look, it's undoubtedly good to have him tied down. Likewise with Horgan, you had Berta the weekend. He's still what, 32, so he's still, like, numbers wise, probably our best player this season. When you factor in another assist at the weekend, and he can. It's a lot of pressure to put on, but he can be that sort of player that if he hits a run of form, he can sort of nearly drag you to safety, because we know he has it in him. But like, fantastic individual just to have around the club. Like, again, I was up at the open training session on Sunday, and he's making, like everyone was, don't get me wrong, but Darrell, this is a specific way about him. I think that he's so good around the place. He's obviously chipped in with the women's teams recently. I think he was with the 14s very recently. He is doing his coaching badges, and I was chatting to John Daly a couple of weeks ago. He'd even been doing a couple of video clips, pulling them out for the likes of Ryan O'Kane, to give him a few tips. And this is a guy who, 17 caps for Ireland, has had an amazing career. So I think it's good to have that sort of, not just player, but character around the place. And yeah, I think that's to be welcomed. And look, hopefully it continues, because as much as any squad will need a bit of surgery, and look, John Daly's only coming in mid-season, etc. But the more players we can tie down for next season early, the better, because it saves that scramble towards the end.
Yeah, definitely. Also, you mentioned Ryan O'Kane. He also did pick up the July goal of the month award. So it was a strike against Drogheda United that got it.
Yeah, and he only came off the bench the other night, but it was his 100th game for the club, and it's his 21st this Friday. So
the young man, that's a lot of appearances. Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, it's a lovely landmark to hit before your 21st birthday, and I think there's a bit of a party this weekend. So happy birthday, Ryan, and I'm sure the O'Kane family will celebrate that in style.
Yeah. Also, we wanted to send condolences because former player Liam Mousey Monroe passed away on Friday. He was 91. I know you had that in there, so I don't know if you have any more on that. But again, I suppose any kind of past players, it's always sad to hear of anybody passing away in that sense, especially anybody connected with the club.
Yeah, no, like Liam played with us in the sort of late 50s, early 60s. I think he 3 seasons at the club and scored a lot of goals in that period. I think it was it 18, 19, and it was 20 goals he got in his 3 seasons at the club, or something along those lines. So he'd be fondly remembered by anyone who supported the club in that era, and just obviously sympathy to those who both remembered him as a player, and obviously his family and friends.
Also, yeah, Dundalk lady Kate O'Connor in the Olympics. So we just wanted to congratulate her as well. It was brilliant to see. I think a good Olympics for Ireland, and it's great to see a Dundalk lady involved in that. 2 of her former players. So Zach Johnson, actually, with the season starting again, he did actually start for Sunderland against Preston tonight in the EFL Cup. Unfortunately, they did lose 2-0, but also Zach Bradshaw started in Tranmere's 3-0 win over Accrington Stanley, and he was at centre back as well. So those are the good days when we had the 2 Zachs. But before we do go, again, we will bring you our underage roundup in association with Jerry McNamee Consultants.
Yeah, busy enough update this week. So on Saturday, the men's under-20s lost out 2-1 to Derry City, with Fionn McNamara getting what proved to be a consolation goal for the young Lillywhites. There was a better result for the men's under-15s on Saturday, as they won 2-1 at home to Athlone Town, courtesy of Sean Platt's double. On Sunday, the women's under-19s had a 2-1 win away to Sligo Rovers with Chloe Ebesim and Ella McKenna on target, while the men's under-17s also had a win away to the Bitter Red, running out 3-1 winners with goals from Aaron Donnelly, TJ Malloy Murray and Keane Spate. Unfortunately, the men's under-14s lost out 3-1 to Cork City in the Eddie Wallace Cup, despite Jamie Donnan briefly bringing the side level. The men's under-20s were also in action on Tuesday night at home to Drogheda United, but lost 2-1 with Mikey Cummins getting an equaliser 2 minutes before Harry McGurk's winner on the hour mark. This Thursday, the men's under-17s host Derry City in Oriel Park at 7:30, while on Saturday, the men's under-20s are at home to Longford Town at 1:30 p.m, with the women's under-17s also hosting the Midlanders at 5. The men's under-15s are also away to Derry on Saturday at 2. Meanwhile, on Sunday, the women's under-19s host Peamount United at 5:30 p.m, with the women's under-17s also in action again next Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m, when they travel to face Sligo Rovers.
Right, well, that is that from us this week in the press box. We do want to let people know that we actually won't have a podcast out next week, as we've no games, sadly, due to our FAI Cup exit. So we will be back with you in the 2 weeks' time discussing the Pats game. So again, we wanted to thank our main sponsors, the unit, as well as our associate sponsors, Player Fit, Jerry McNamee Consultants and Malone Financial Services. If you're listening on YouTube, or even if you don't especially, and you do click on, definitely try subscribe to the channel and leave any comments that you want. And again, that's sponsored by Mullins on the Castletown Road. So as I said, we won't have a show next week, but hopefully by then we'll be talking about celebrating a successive win over Stephen Kenny's men. Until then, we'll talk to you soon.
Look how the stars turn on. Look how the stars turn